Good morning. Morning. We're holding now Parshas Vayetze Torah Or Chof Aleph. At the end of the first Aliyah, the pasuk describes how Yaakov is saying after he has the whole dream. So he says, "ושבתי בשלום el beis avi," that if Hashem is going to return me in peace to my father's home, v'hoya havaya lila lekim, and Hashem is going to be with me. V'evan azois asher samti matzeva, so the stone that I put as a monument, yiyah beis elikim, will be a house for Hashem. So Yaakov is like making a condition with Hashem. If Hashem is going to protect me, I'm leaving now Eretz Yisroel, and I'm going to Charan. If Hashem is going to protect me, and He's going to return me in peace, then what am I going to do? This stone. So what did he do? He came to that place. He took a bunch of stones, and then, like Rashi says, the stones all started fighting, and they all became one stone. And he took that stone and he said, "V'shavti b'shalom beis avi, v'hoya avadi l'elikim v'evan hazos." This stone that I'm making should be like a monument for Hashem. So the Alter Rebbe asks, we have to understand hashaycha shel ha'evan in shem havaya. We have to understand what's the connection between the stone and the name of Havaya. Because the pasuk says, "Kishavaya yiyah l'elikim," when Havaya is going to be elikim, oz dafke yiyah ha'evan beis elikim. Then the stone will be a house for Hashem. In other words, it's depending one on the other. That it's mashma that if Hashem will return me, then the stone will be a matzeva, will be a beis elikim. So the question is, what's the connection between a stone and the name of Havaya? That we're saying that dafka when Havaya will be elikim, then this stone could be a beis elikim. Gam tzarich lav, and we have to understand ki loshen ha'evan hazois hu loshen nekeva. Ha'evan hazois is a feminine word. Umilas yiyah, and the word yiyah is loshen zocher, is masculine. It should have said ha'evan hazois tia. Why does it say yiyah? So those are the two questions. Number one is, what's the connection between making a beis elikim to Havaya lila elikim? And number two is, why not be consistent? Va'evan hazos should say tia beis elikim. So the Alter Rebbe says, "Lahavin kol zeh kol anal." To understand all this, to understand this, we first have to explain what it says in the previous psukim. It says that that Yaakov met that place. He came to a place. He took from the stones of that place, and he put it around his head. And what did he do with that stone? He made it a monument. And we have to understand what is the idea of these stones. What are stones? What are these stones? In the beginning, there are many stones. As it says, he took from the stones of the place. And then what happened? Like Rashi says over there, that it all became one stone. So we have to understand Beruchnius. What does that mean? That there were many stones and it became one stone. In the beginning of the parsha it says, Yaakov went from Be'er Shava, he went from Eretz Yisroel, and where did he go? He went to Charan. Pirush, what does that mean? Yaakov hu pchinas Yud Okiv. Yaakov is from the if you divide it, it's Yud Okiv, which means 10 to the heel. In other words, Yaakov's avodah is that he takes the Yud, he takes the Chochmila, the supernal Chochma, Shupchinas Yud, which Chochmila is the Yud, Lamata Mata Gam Pchinas Akvayin, that he takes the Yud, the Chochma, In other words, he takes the Chochmah Ilah, which usually that refers to Chochmah of Atzilus, and he brings the Chochmah Ilah down even into the heels, into the lowest worlds. And this is what it means. Yaakov went from Be'er Shava to Charan. Yaakov, who Amam, Be'er Shava, that Yaakov's Avoda is that he takes from the level of Be'er Shava. That Sheva refers to seven, the seven emotions, the seven midas. So Yaakov takes the seven emotions the way it is in Atzilus, which we know in Atzilus, him and his Kalim, the Eidus and the Kalim are one. And what does he do with that? He takes this very high level, he takes the level of this Be'er Shava, which is the seven midas of Atzilus. And what does he do with that? He brings it down. Charan. He brings it down to the level of Charan. As it says in Tehillim, Yaakov, that he commands the salvation of Yaakov. What does it mean, Tzav Yeshuas Yaakov? Yeshua is him shin ayin nahedin Elohim. Yeshua is referred to the 370 supernal lights. Yaakov, and what does Yaakov do? That Yaakov's Avoda is that he brings down the Yeshuas into Yaakov. So what does it mean, Sava Yeshuas Yaakov? Yaakov is the Mechaber. Yaakov connects them. He takes the Yeshuas, he takes the Shin Ayin, the Herdnilon, the high lights, and what does he do? He connects it and he brings it down into this world. The Gam as well, Yeshua is Maloshin Shah. Yeshua is also comes from the terminology of Shah, he turned. Like it says, that Hashem turned to Hevel's carbon. What does it mean? That the idea of Yeshua is turning, in other words, that it's the lashon of Hamshacha of descending downwards. So what the Rebbe is explaining is that the Avoda, Vayetze Yaakov Be'er Yaakov's Avoda is Yud Akiv. In other words, he takes the Chochmah Ilah and he brings it into the Akiv, into the heels, into the lowest parts of the world. In this specific example, Vayetze Yaakov Be'er Shava, Yaakov went from Be'er Shava, he took the seven emotions of Atzilus, whereby Atzilus, the Eretz and the Kalim are one, and what did he do? He was mamshech it down into this world. And that's what it means as well. We see another example. Tzava Yeshua is Yaakov. That Yeshua is comes from the letters of is Shin Ayin Nahidin, which what does he do? He is Yaakov, he connects the highlights with this world. Also Yeshua comes from the lashon of turning. In other words, that we see just like by the Eibishter, he turned to Hevel's carbon, which means he descended. The same thing, what it means, Savi Yeshua Yaakov, that it's a lashon of Amshach. So the Rebbe says, b'ishtalshus Hashem kol kach b'tzimtzum rabim. B'ishtalshus Hashem kol kach b'tzimtzum rabim. Since there was a ishtalshus of a great light through many contractions. So what happened over here? This great went from the highest level into the lowest level of Charan. So and how did it get there? Through many different contractions and tzimtzumim. So nasa alma de pruda lagamri. So now it became like separate worlds, because you have, like we gave the example last week with the light. So you have the ray of the light, and you have so many different curtains. It's possible to think that the light really is the source of its own. So because there's many different contractions in order to get to Charan, so eventually it became separate worlds. Like it says, that there's a river that left Eden, which we explained a few times. And this is the level of Chochmah Ilah, the hashkas of the gan, to water the garden. In other words, we explained that's the Chochmah Ilah going out from Gan Eden and going out from Eden and going to the Gan. And what does the Batzuk say? Umisham yiparit, and over there it's separated. that since there was many different ishtalshlos and many different tzimtzumim, nasim b'chinas nefradim b'tachlis, so the world became now separated. So what does Yaakov do? Yaakov olav Shalom. Yaakov bin olav Shalom rotz la'alosim l'mayla. So Yaakov now wants to bring up the worlds, the Alma, the Pruda, the Charan. He wants to bring it up higher and higher. That even when the world, even when we're at a level of Charan, which Charan is Alma the Pruda, nevertheless, Yaakov's Avoda is that he makes it one. He makes this bittul on a yichud mamish, just like it is in the level of Atzilus, which Chayu v'Gemar Yochad, him and his Kalim are one. Well, the Zois Nemar, that's what it says. That he took from the stones of the place. It's known that stones are called letters. Like it says in Sefer Yitzira, two stones can create two houses. Like we gave the example last week. Aleph base, two letters can create either Av or Ba. Shalish Avonim, if you have three letters, three stones, Bainis, Shisha Batim, it could create six houses. And through many stones, eventually a house could be built that a person can live in this house. So too, through many letters, through many letters. Many letters becomes words and sentences, and when those words and sentences are enclosed in the seichel, so that's what gives the intellect a way to express itself is through the letters and through sentences. So again, many letters, just like many stones make houses, many stones make one house that you can live in. So many letters and many sentences can eventually make teves that are enclosed in the seichel, that the seichel can function. Also, just like avonim, stones from all the elements, they are daimim. We call you say this from all the Dal you say this of Daimim Tzemei Chaim Medaber. We know Daimim is the lowest. So too, Oasis the Gabi Asei Chamalush Bahem. So the Oasis, even though the Oasis are enclosed in the intellect, nevertheless, they have no really comparison to the seichel itself. So what we're saying is that we're explaining that Yaakov's Avoda is that he descends from the high level of Be'er Shava, goes to Charan, but in Charan, since there's Alma the Pruda, Yaakov's Avoda, what does he do? Is he brings up and he makes sure that Charan also has a bittul. So that's why he took stones from that place. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining what are stones bechlal. Stones, we know stones are oisius. Just like oisius create a house or create thought and thoughts, and create that let seichel function, just like a stone to a house. So he says that also it even though it lets the seichel function, but just like a stone is doimim, the gabi the seichel itself, it's the level of daimim as well. So when we call now, what comes out from everything that the Alter Rebbe is explaining, Shavon Mikro is that letters, stones are called letters. Making the Maila, so too the Maila. That the stones are called the letters. What does that mean? He says, it says, B'dvar Hashem Shemayim Nasu. With the words of Hashem, He created the world. And it says as well that Hashem is the king of all the worlds. Pirush. What does that mean? Shechai is kol ha'inamais, Shem Eilamais Adin Kates, that the vitality of all the worlds doesn't matter what part of the ilm is. As we know, there's infinite worlds. As it says, you can't count really the geduda of the troops. Hine in Kozeh, nevertheless, even though there's so many different in the different ilm in the world, nevertheless, it all comes from the level of Malchus, Dvar Hashem, which this is the level of the word of Hashem. which gives it vitality from ayin liyesh constantly. Since all the nivroim are limited, that they're limited with their understanding. And from the ground to the heavens, to the rakia mahalach tov kuf shana, it could take a person 500 years to get from Oris to rakia. So even though in the highest worlds it will take a person 500 years to get there, nevertheless, the light of Hashem, which is it's be'ein areich to earn safe. Therefore, it's not possible to receive its vitality only from the Dvar Hashem, from the word of Hashem, which is which these are the letters that Hashem created, the heaven and earth, which they are the level of daimim l'gabe erin seif baruch hu, which they are daimim l'gabe erin seif. As it says, Kodesh Hashem Tzavakis. It says, the Malachim say, Kodesh Hashem, Hashem is holy, Tzavakis of Tzavakis. Kamayim Razal, like the Gemara says, what does it mean? Kodesh Hashem Tzavakis, Oisu B'Tzavakis Shalai, that he's a sign in his Tzavakis. Avshem Elef Alafim, and even though there are thousands of Malachim, Kameshikasav, Elef Alafim Yishim Shena, B'Rabu Devav and Kidemu Yichudik Kameshikasav Yesh Mispil Dudav, even though there's many different thousands and thousands of worlds and thousands of malachim, calls them nevertheless. So since they are at the end of the day, they are balik vul, they're limited. All their chayas comes from one letter. The gamri, the gabi shem avaya, which this is the level of daimim. So what we're explaining is that. What does it mean in Avoda? Yaakov Avinu took the stones and put it around his head. He says that stones are like letters, just like the letters, just like the oisius of a person. The aleph base, through the more and more letters you have, you can form more words and more sentences. And eventually, when you have more words and more sentences, the seichel could start functioning. The seichel could express itself. So too, the Eibishter also has letters. When the Eibishter creates the world, he creates it with different letters, as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya from the Baal Shem Tov, V'hinei Hashem nitzavo, that Hashem is constantly being mechai the world, constantly ma'ayin liyesh with what? With Dvar Shemayim Nasu, with the words of Hashem. So these are oisius, and these oisius, just like in regards to regular oisius or regular avonim, they're daimim l'gabe the seichel. So it doesn't matter how high the worlds we're talking about. It doesn't matter even if we're talking about the worlds of malachim. Nevertheless, they all are considered a daimim, considered like inanimate l'gabe the erin seif. Okay, we're holding the second side v'hinei. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the top. So the whole ishtalshlus of the worlds from all the different levels, it's all dependent on how the forms of the letters are created. That based on the formations of the letters and based on how it's articulated, that's how the chayis is going to get. That's how the nivra is going to get its chayis. Now, Yaakov Avinu, what does Yaakov Avinu? What does he want to do? He wants to take this level of Charan. He wants to take all these low levels of Dvar Hashem, and he wants to bring it up Lamaila. Therefore, what did he do? He took from the stones of the place. What does that mean? He took many letters. So he took many stones. In other words, he took many letters and he made it one stone. Which this is the level of Yud. This is what it means, that he placed the stone under his head. Just like by a person, he has intellect and emotions, but oisius and the letters. So the oisius are the way that they enclose in seichel and midas. That's how the seichel and midas can express itself. So can make in the maila, so to the maila. Ishpinas Chabad. So Lamaila, by the Eibishter, you have the level of Chachma, Bina, and Das by Hashem. And V'zayin Tachtenim, and you also have the 7 Midas. Rak Shehem Hu Chakam Lei B'Chachma Yediyah, Mevim Lei B'Bina Yediyah, V'lav Mikom Midas Ilin. So even though that, with the way we understand, like we explained in Parshas Vayeda, the way we understand the Seder Yishtalshlus of the world, we have to understand how we work. So just like we have Seichel and Midas, and the Seichel and Midas express itself with Oisius, so to Lamaila, how is this that there's Seichel and Midas, but it's not a Seichel that we understand, and it's not a Midas that we understand as well. Because over there, when we speak about the Chachma and Bina of the Eibishter, that is Tachas a bit. But like it says, L'cha Hashem, to you Hashem is the Gedula, right? It's Gedula of Gvura, which means there's Chesed and there's Gvura. However, B'chayu, B'gami Yochad, when it speaks about the Eibishter, the Oiris and the Kelim are all one. B'chinas Dvar Hashem. So what does it mean? The word of Hashem, Hem Oisis, Shebahem Mislab Shem Chabad. These are the Oisis that Chabad is enclosed in the Midah Shem Esesvir Sahinis. What is the letter of Yud? Shinekuda Ktana, which we know a Yud is a small dot. This is the way that Chachma is enclosed. That this is, we know a Yud is like a little pintelet, it's a Nekuda, it's a dot, which means that the Yud is like, which we explained is the level of Chachma. It's very submissive, it's very nullified. Now, what is, so Yud is the level of Bittul, it's Chachma, it's nullified, it's subservient. Hey is She Hey, we know, shows on expansiveness. So that the Hey refers to the way that it is a garment for the level of Bina. So do Shar Eisish. So too, when it comes to all the other emotions, the other Asis, and this is what it means. Yaakov made one stone. From all the stones, he made one stone. What does that mean? This is the level of Yud. So basically, what did Yaakov Avinu and Avoda do? He took all the Asis. He took the Asis of Bina, and he took the Asis of Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, and what did he do with all that? He brought it up to Chochmeilah. And then, what did he do? He made a monument for it, which this is the level of Vav. That what's a Vav, like we explained last week? The Vav, you're taking the Yud and you're basically drawing it down. So the Vav takes the Yud and it's mamshech it to the next level. So what did he do? He took the level, the Chachmeilah, and he brought it into the Midas. That he brought the level of Chachmeilah in Torah and Mitzvahs. As it's known, that the way a Vav looks in Torah, on the Vav, if you look closely, there's like a little Nekuda, there's a little dot of the Yud on it. And what did he do? He brought it down. Where does Torah come from? The level of Chachmeilah, and Torah comes into Dvarim Gashmim, into physical examples. So this is what it means by Yitzchak Sheman al Reisha. This is what it means. The Yaakov Avinu, he poured oil on the head of the monument. Pirish, what does that mean? Sheman u'pchinas Chachmeilah. Oil refers to the level of Chachmeilah. Like it says, Shem Mishchas Kedesh. So oil, we know that oil, it's when you pour oil, let's say, into a cup of water, so oil will soak all the water, but it's going to float on top of it. So when we say in Chassidus oil, it means Shemen refers to the level of Chachmeilah. So what did he do? He brought the level of Chachmeilah in so what does that mean that he poured the oil on top of it? He took the Chachmeilah and he made sure that the Chachmeilah goes into the Midas as well. That, in other words, that in Torah, even though Torah speaks about Dvarim Gashmim, but nevertheless, it also has the level of Chachmeilah in it. Okay, just to recap, and then we'll continue on Thursday. But we started like this, just to make a chazara. We started ושבתי בשלום base avi. Yaakov Avinu said that if I return in peace to my base avi, to my father, Hashem will be with me. So this monument that I'm going to make, it will be a house for Hashem. So we're going to explain now in Avoda what exactly Yaakov was doing. So we asked two questions. First of all, what's the connection between Havaya Lila Likim and making a Matzeva Beis Likim? Number two is why use Lashon, first Lashon Nekev and then Lashon Nekev and then Lashon Zachar. And then we say Yiyah, the should say Tia. So we explained that in order to understand this, we first have to preface, beforehand we said that what does it mean that he came to the place and he took stones? So we have to understand, B'chlal, what are stones? And in the beginning, Yaakov took many stones and then he made one stone. So we said that in Avoda, what does it mean? Vayetze Yaakov Yaakov is the level of Yud Akiv. What does Yaakov do? His Avoda is to be mamshach the Yud into Akiv. In specifically, Vayetze Yaakov he takes the level of Be'er, which is the 7 midas of Atzilus, which in Atzilus is Iyu v'chayu chad. And what does he do? He brings down it to the level of Charan. Now, and that's what it means, Sabi Yeshuas. Yaakov, that we said Yeshuas is either Shin Ayin Nahir Nilah or Yeshuas is Melashon Shah, turning. Now, because the Seder Shtalshalas, and in order for these levels to go into Charan, the problem is that it becomes Alma de Pruda. So what is Yaakov's Avoda? Yaakov's Avoda is to make sure that even in the Alma de Pruda, even in the lowest worlds, there's still a bit of a tachlis to the Eibishter. And that's what it means that he took the stones. So we said that just like stones are oisius. Just like oisius actually we said that stones make houses, oisius makes words, makes sentences, and through that, it expresses itself, that the Seichel and the Midas can express itself. So what do you see from here? That just like stones and oisius make a person express themselves, the same thing with Lamaila, that has Hashem express himself. This is through the Dvar Hashem. That even though Hashem creates the Dvar Hashem, but nevertheless, it's like bottle, it's doimim compared to the actual Eibishter himself. That all the highest levels are compared to nothing to Aaron Seif. And this is what it means. What does Yaakov do? Yaakov brings up all these madregas, and that's what it means that he took from the stones. And he took from the stones and made one stone. He took all the levels of Chabad and Chagas, and what did he do? He brought it up to Chochmei Ilah. And that's what it means also, that he took the Matzeva. Matzeva is like it's a tall thing. What did he do? He took the Chochmei Ilah and he was mamshech it down into the Midas, but he also poured oil. What does it mean? He poured oil. He poured oil, which means that he made sure that the Chochmei Ilah should go and be also enclosed in the Gashmistika parts of Torah. Okay, we'll continue on Thursday.